You know, we all carry fears inside us. Sometimes it's the fear of losing someone we love. Sometimes it's the fear of failure, of not being good enough. And sometimes it's that fear of the future, what's going to happen to me tomorrow. I know that feeling. It eats you from the inside. Your chest feels heavy. Your mind keeps running in circles. And you start asking yourself, why can't I just feel at peace? But here's something I've learned. Whenever fear tries to drown your heart, there is only one lifeline: hope in Allah. When you put your trust in Him, fear begins to lose its power, because suddenly you realize the things you were so afraid of were never in your hands anyway. They were always in His hands. Think about it. How many times have you cried over something only to later realize it turned out better than you imagined? That's not a coincidence. That's Allah showing you, I've got you. I've always had you. Hope doesn't mean your problems vanish. It doesn't mean you'll never feel scared again. No, hope means that even in your fear you choose to say, I don't know how things will work out, but I know my Lord will never abandon me. That hope. It changes you, it makes you stronger, it makes you stand tall when life tries to push you down. It gives you courage to face the same problems that once made you cry. So when fear whispers in your heart, pause, take a breath, and remind yourself, my Lord is greater than my fear, my Lord is greater than my pain, and with Him I am never weak. And trust me, every time you replace fear with hope, you will see how your heart finds peace, your steps find strength, and your life finds purpose. Fear is something every single one of us understands. You don't have to teach a child what fear is. From the moment we are young, we know the feeling of being afraid. A child clings to their mother in the dark, their heart racing because the shadows on the wall seem too big. As we grow, those shadows change shape. They become exams, responsibilities, relationships, money, health, and the unknown future. But the feeling remains the same, that heaviness in the chest, that voice in your head that says, what if something goes wrong? We often think we are alone in our fears, but the truth is, everyone carries them. Some just hide them better than others. A businessman may look confident in his expensive suit, but deep inside he fears losing everything he worked for. A student might smile with friends, but deep inside she fears failing and disappointing her parents. A mother holds her baby close and kisses him, but her heart quietly whispers, what if I can't protect him from this world? Fear is part of being human. It doesn't make you weak, it makes you real. Sometimes people look around and think others have it all figured out, that they are the only ones trembling inside. But if you could open people's hearts, you would see hidden fears everywhere. The neighbor who seems happy may be afraid of loneliness. The successful man may be afraid of being forgotten. The strong woman may be afraid of breaking down when no one is watching. Fear comes in different forms. For some, it's fear of failure, the voice that says, you will never make it, so don't even try. For others, it's fear of rejection, the thought that no one will truly accept them as they are. And for many, it's fear of the future, that endless list of what ifs. What if I lose my job? What if I don't get married? What if I get sick? What if my loved ones leave me? These thoughts can take over your nights, leaving you staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep. But here's the truth about fear. It shows us how fragile we are. It reminds us that we are not in control, and that realization is not a curse, it is a hidden blessing. Because when fear humbles us, it also pushes us to look beyond ourselves. Think about how many times you've been afraid of something in the past. Maybe it was a test at school. Maybe it was losing someone. Maybe it was standing in front of people and speaking. At that moment you thought, I can't do this, I won't survive this. And yet, here you are today. You survived every single fear you once thought would break you. Doesn't that mean something? It means fear is not the end. Fear is a signal, a reminder that you need help, that you can't carry life alone. It's like an alarm bell inside your heart that makes you pause and look upward. It pushes you to say, I'm scared, but I know my Lord is greater than this fear, and maybe that's why fear exists in the first place. Without it, we would walk arrogantly, thinking we can handle everything on our own, but fear softens us, it makes us cry, it makes us kneel, it makes us pray, and in that prayer, we find a strength we never knew we had. So when you feel fear rising inside you, remember this: you are not strange and you are not alone. Everyone you see, no matter how confident, strong, or successful they look, is carrying their own silent fears. The difference is not whether or not you feel fear. The difference is whether you let fear control you or you let hope in Allah guide you through it. Fear is heavy. It sits in your chest like a stone. It keeps you awake at night, replaying every what if in your mind. What if I fail? What if they leave me? What if tomorrow is worse than today? The cycle is endless, and the more you try to control everything, the more powerless you feel. That's the truth about fear. It grows when you think you are the one in charge. But here's something beautiful. The moment you place your hope in Allah, the weight of fear begins to lift. It doesn't mean life suddenly becomes perfect. It doesn't mean problems vanish overnight, but your heart changes, and when your heart changes, the way you face your fears changes too. Why? Because hope in Allah is not just a feeling, it's a perspective. It's seeing the same storm, but instead of panicking, you remind yourself, the one who controls the storm also controls my heart, and he will not let me drown. Think about this. Fear comes from uncertainty. We fear because we don't know what tomorrow holds, but Allah already knows tomorrow, next week, next year, and every breath we will ever take. When you hold on to hope in Him, you no longer have to carry the burden of knowing the future. You can simply say, I don't know what's coming, but I know my Lord is in control. That sentence alone is enough to soften the tightest chest. Many people live in fear because they rely only on themselves. They believe every outcome depends on their effort alone. But the truth is, we are limited. We can plan, we can work hard, but there are things far beyond our control: illness, death, accidents, unexpected changes. No amount of money, fame, or power can guarantee peace. Only hope in Allah can give that. Let me give you an example. Imagine you're holding a fragile glass in your hands, terrified it will slip and shatter. Your palms sweat, your heart races, and you're too scared to move. But then someone stronger and more capable says, give it to me, I'll hold it for you. Instantly your fear eases because you trust that person will keep it safe. That is what hope in Allah does for your soul. It takes the fragile weight of your fears and places them in hands far more powerful than yours. And when you do that, something incredible happens. Fear transforms into strength. Suddenly, the same situation that once made you tremble now becomes an opportunity to grow. The same challenge that once made you cry now makes you pray harder. The same darkness that once suffocated you now becomes the space where your faith shines brightest. Hope doesn't erase fear completely, but it makes it bearable, it makes it useful. It teaches you that fear is not a signal to give up, but a signal to lean closer to Allah. It whispers to your heart, you are not alone, you never were. Have you noticed how a child runs into their parents' arms the moment they are scared? The parent doesn't always remove the danger instantly, but the child feels safe simply because they are being held. That's what hope in Allah feels like. Even when the problem is still there, your heart feels protected. Even when the storm is still raging, you feel a calmness because you know you're not facing it alone. Hope is like light, fear is like darkness. You don't have to fight the darkness directly, you just need to bring in the light, and the darkness disappears on its own. When you fill your heart with hope in Allah, the shadows of fear can no longer control you. So whenever fear starts whispering, pause and remind yourself, this fear is not bigger than my Lord. This problem is not beyond His mercy. My tomorrow is already written by the one who loves me more than I can imagine. It's amazing how, when we look back at our lives, the things that once felt unbearable are often the same things that shaped us into who we are today. At the time, those struggles felt like the end. We cried, we begged, we thought, why me, why now? But now, when we look back, we see something else, mercy. Think about your own past for a moment. Think about a time when you thought you wouldn't make it through. Maybe it was losing a job, maybe it was heartbreak. Maybe it was failing at something important. At that moment, it felt like the world was collapsing around you. You couldn't see beyond the pain. You wondered why Allah would allow you to suffer like that. But then, time passed, you healed, you grew, and now when you look back, you realize if that moment hadn't happened, you wouldn't be where you are today. That job you lost pushed you towards a better opportunity. That heartbreak saved you from someone who wasn't meant for your life. That failure taught you lessons success never could. Struggles feel like punishment when we're in them, but when we look back, we realize they were actually gifts wrapped in tears and sleepless nights, but gifts nonetheless. Because every struggle carries a hidden lesson, and every hardship hides Allah's mercy. Imagine a child who wants to eat candy for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. The parent says no. The child cries, thinking the parent is cruel. But the parent is not being cruel. The parent is protecting the child's health. In the same way, when Allah blocks something from our life, it's not to harm us, but to protect us. We cry because we don't understand, but His mercy is greater than our understanding. Sometimes the mercy isn't even in what we gain, but in what we lose. You may never know the disasters Allah saved you from by removing certain people, opportunities, or paths from your life. You only see the closed door, but He sees the fire behind it. And when He pulls you away, even if it hurts, it's His way of saying, I love you too much to let you walk into harm. Have you ever noticed how, after a painful experience, your heart softens, how you become more humble, more empathetic, more understanding of others? That's also mercy. Struggles don't just change our circumstances, they change us. They polish our hearts, they remind us of our dependence on Allah, and they bring us closer to Him. And isn't that the greatest mercy of all? Look back at the times you thought you were finished. You're still here, you survived. You got through nights you thought you'd never see the end of, and not only did you survive, you grew. You became stronger, wiser, more patient. Isn't that a sign that Allah's mercy was with you the entire time? We tend to think mercy only looks like blessings we can smile about: money, health, love, success. But mercy often looks like a closed door, like tears on the prayer mat, like a long road you didn't want to walk. Mercy doesn't always come dressed as comfort. Sometimes it comes disguised as difficulty. When you look back, you start to connect the dots. You see how Allah was guiding you even when you felt lost. You see how every no was leading you to a better yes. You see how every tear was watering the seeds of your future. That's why reflecting on the past is so important. Not to relive the pain, but to recognize the mercy that carried you through it. Because once you see that mercy in your past, you can face your future with more courage. If Allah carried you through yesterday, why would He abandon you today? If He healed you before, why wouldn't He heal you again? Your past struggles are not just scars, they are proof of His mercy. They are reminders that even in your darkest nights, you were never left alone. When people hear the word hope, they sometimes think it means sitting still and just waiting for life to magically get better. They imagine hope as lying down, doing nothing, and saying, Inshallah, things will change. But real hope in Allah is not passive. Real hope is active. It's not about folding your arms and expecting the storm to pass. It's about raising your hands in prayer, taking steps forward, and trusting Allah to guide your feet. Hope is not laziness. It's not an excuse to avoid effort. True hope is like planting a seed. You don't just drop it in the soil and walk away. You water it, you nurture it, you protect it. And at the same time, you hope that Allah will bring the rain, the sunlight, and the growth. That's how hope works in life too. You put in your effort, but you rely on Allah for the results. Think about a student before an exam. Passive hope says, I won't study, but inshallah I'll pass. Active hope says, I'll study with all my effort, and inshallah Allah will bless my work and calm my nerves. Which one do you think truly reflects trust in Allah? The second one, because hope is not about neglecting your role. It's about doing your part and leaving the rest to Him. The same applies to every fear and struggle. If you're afraid of the future, don't just sit there worrying. Take steps, even small ones. Look for opportunities, make dua, improve yourself, keep moving forward. That's what active hope looks like. Fear paralyzes, but hope energizes. It tells you, yes, things are hard, but keep walking. Your Lord will open a way for you. Even in our personal battles, active hope changes everything. If someone is struggling with sadness, passive hope says, one day I'll feel better. Active hope says, I'll turn to Allah, I'll recite His words, I'll surround myself with good company, and I'll trust that healing will come. See the difference. One waits in silence, the other moves with faith, and sometimes active hope means holding on even when you're tired. It means showing up to pray even when your heart feels heavy. It means whispering a dua with tears in your eyes even when you don't see any change yet. Because hope isn't only about what you feel, it's also about what you choose to do despite what you feel. Look at the prophets. Their lives were filled with struggles. They faced rejection, loss, and pain. But they never sat back and said, "We'll just wait and see." No, they acted, they preached, they prayed, they endured, and they trusted. Their hope in Allah was alive, and that's why they had the strength to keep moving forward when everything seemed against them. Hope is like light inside your heart, but it shines brighter when you move towards it. Imagine being in a dark tunnel. Passive hope is sitting there and waiting for someone to rescue you. Active hope is walking forward, step by step, trusting that Allah has placed an exit ahead, even if you can't see it yet. So the next time fear tries to freeze you, remind yourself, hope is action. Take the first step, however small. Open the book, send the application, make the phone call, say the prayer, and then leave the results in Allah's hands. That is true hope, because real trust is not in saying, "Allah will do everything for me." Real trust is in saying, "I'll do what I can, and Allah will take care of what I can't." That balance is where peace is found. Hope in Allah doesn't let you sit back and watch life pass by. It pushes you to move, to grow, to try again, and to never give up. And the beauty of it is this: even when your effort feels small, Allah's mercy is so vast that He can turn your smallest action into the greatest outcome. Life can feel like a battlefield sometimes. You wake up and face worries that drain your energy before the day even begins. The weight of responsibilities, the fear of failure, the pain of loss, all of it can make you feel like you don't have the strength to take another step. And then, in the middle of that heaviness, comes hope. Hope is not just a feeling, it is fuel. It doesn't remove your struggles, but it gives you the strength to walk through them. When you place your hope in Allah, suddenly your shoulders feel lighter, because you're no longer carrying the weight alone. You remember that there is someone greater who knows your pain, hears your prayers, and will never let you go through it without a reason. Strength doesn't always look like lifting heavy burdens. Sometimes strength looks like smiling when you feel like crying. Sometimes it's standing up for prayer after a long day. Sometimes it's saying Alhamdulillah, even when things don't go your way. That strength doesn't come from you alone. It comes from the hope in your heart that Allah will make a way even when you can't see one yet. And with that strength comes peace. Fear says you're on your own. Hope says you are never alone. That one shift changes everything. The same situation that once made you anxious now feels manageable. The same storm that once shook you now feels like just another test you'll pass through. Imagine you're lost in a desert, exhausted and thirsty. You feel like collapsing. Then, suddenly, you see a sign that water is near. Do you suddenly have water in your hands? No, but the hope of water gives you the strength to keep walking. That is what hope in Allah does for the soul. It gives you enough strength to keep moving, enough peace to calm your heart until relief finally comes. And peace is not the absence of problems. Peace is the calm you feel even in the middle of problems, because you know you're not facing them alone. You've probably had moments when everything around you was chaotic, but the moment you raised your hands in dua, your heart softened. Did your problems vanish instantly? No, but your heart changed. That's the peace of hope. One of the most powerful effects of hope in Allah is how it reshapes fear. Instead of paralyzing you, fear becomes a reminder to trust. Instead of breaking you, challenges become stepping stones. You start to see life differently. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" you begin to ask, "What is Allah teaching me through this?" That shift in mindset is strength. That calm acceptance is peace. We often underestimate how much inner strength comes from hope. Look at people who have faced unimaginable hardships, illness, poverty, loss of loved ones. What kept them going? It wasn't just physical strength. It was the hope in their hearts that Allah would never burden them beyond what they can bear, and that every difficulty carries ease. That hope gave them the courage to wake up every morning and keep moving forward. And you've done it too. Think back to the hardest times of your life, times you thought you couldn't survive, times you cried until you had no tears left, you felt broken, and yet you're here. You survived. How? Because even if it was a tiny spark, there was hope inside you. You believed somewhere deep down that Allah would carry you through, and He did. That is strength, that is peace. So never underestimate the power of hope. It's not just a comforting idea. It's the very thing that gives you the strength to stand when life tries to knock you down, and the peace to smile when your heart is heavy. When you truly hold onto hope in Allah, you don't just survive hardships, you grow through them. You become stronger, calmer, more resilient, and that's strength and peace. That's what allows you to live this life with courage, no matter what comes your way.